For way too long you've been holding yourself quiet, right? Your time has come to express what has been hiding inside of you, isn't it? You've come along your way and you've recognized that there's something you wanted to say all along, but you've stayed quiet. There was so many times you wanted to speak up, you wanted to talk about, but you stayed quiet. I feel you, my friend. I'm coming from a place where I've been quiet most of the time. I've talked about this before. And there were many moments when I wanted to say something, but I was too shy. I was too afraid. I didn't want to be exposed as the weirdo or someone who thinks differently. But all of my childhood, I was thinking differently. I was looking on the world differently. I knew my place is somewhere else, and I didn't fit in. Because of that, I often thought there's something wrong with me, so I stayed quiet rather than being exposed as the odd one, as the black sheep in the society. So one day I've realized that I don't want to stay like that. I came across one book that changed my life, and it was nothing special. It was not like completely life-changing book or a certain philosophy that would completely open your mind, but when I was reading that book, it was The Dreamers Never Sleep by Pat Mesiti, I think Italian writer. When I was reading that book, I've noticed, well, that guy had a similar background. He's coming from a similar family. He was the odd one, but he became quite successful in his field. And I've noticed, well, maybe people who feel like the odd ones, who don't fit in, maybe they have been placed here to change the game. Because whatever already exists doesn't fit them, which means they have renewed minds without a need to renew it. They haven't been able to be hypnotized, to be pushed in the corner. Maybe you've been, but you're not meant to stay there. Well, the point is that you came to the moment in your life where, my friend, it's time for you to speak up. It's time for you to share your message. It's time for you to sing the song. It's time for you to bring out the poetry of your heart. It's time for you to make the art. It's time for you to master it. Whatever it is, right? Don't look or wait for it to be perfect. It will never be perfect. It's a constant state of becoming better, right? Whatever you do, even in the simplest way of self-expression, it's a constant way, consistent way of getting better. You see, I used to be quiet, and sometimes I wanted to approach someone and I rather shut down. There were moments when I wanted to say something to someone, but I rather stay quiet because I didn't want to be rejected. I didn't want to stand out like a weirdo. But then I've decided one day that I will start just randomly talking with people, like with strangers. Like going into a grocery store and just starting a conversation. Or sometimes you go buying clothes and you approach the person there that works hard to serve you. And you end up going from that place a bit renewed and happy because you've made a wonderful relationship there. One day I've decided that I will just approach people, I will talk with them, I will ask them, how are you doing? How are your days going? And you know what changed? Well, I've noticed that even people who seem on the outside that they are hard to approach, they have very gentle hearts many times. So when I've started talking with more people, like completely spontaneously, I've noticed that most of the time I have beautiful interactions, and it's not so scary. It's actually a very beautiful thing we can do. And I also noticed that people love that, because we're living in a time of increasing loneliness. Like, there's more and more lonely people, and while people are lacking social skills, people are lacking skills that would allow them to start a conversation, and sometimes some emotional intelligence to express what they feel. And if you're the first one that starts, it gets easier, and people are usually very happy about it. Well, sometimes you may meet the ones that will not be, but who cares? That's how you get better, right? But then you have moments in your life when you're in a very special relationship to you, but because you're not speaking up about what you feel, about your needs, you are becoming suppressed. And then you don't know how to deal with it. Well, the best way to deal with something that's been suppressed is to be exposed to it, and then to talk about it. You can't hide in the shadow forever, right? So your time has come to speak up, to open your mouth and let the heart guide it, not your brain. Well, your brain is wise, but your heart knows better, right? And when you suppress your heart, it turns into pain. That's why they say suppressed potential turns into pain. And then pain bothers you for a reason. Only so you would look into it, because that's when what's bothering you will stop bothering you, because you will get exposed to what needed to come out. That's the reason why we have negative emotions and negative sensations in the body. So we would expose ourselves to them because they are revealing something to us when we listen to them. Most people spend most of their lives in their negative emotions because they've never paid attention to them. They've just started avoiding anything that causes them to feel it. Well, the truth is, more frequently you expose yourself to it, less frequently you will feel it. You will become more fluid. You will become like a stream of a river, or a fish in it that goes with the stream, but you're more free than a fish. You can walk, you can ride, you can create, you can do many different things. Don't waste these opportunities. They are very sacred. First of all, you've chosen to come here, right? But you already know that. But also you've come here to be free, and you already know that. But how well are you living it? Well, your time has come to fully open up. Give that voice of yours, that beautiful voice of yours, out into the world, because it may save lives. You will never know, but it may save lives. You need to understand that your thinking is different, and that's why it's beautiful. You haven't come here to be framed like a painting. You've come here to explore how far you can stretch that art of you. You see, once when I had an art exhibition, one art expert, he claimed to be an art expert, he came into this place and he said, you know, I love your paintings so much because they just don't have an edge. Like, they never end. If you would use a bigger canvas, that painting would be just stretching into new fields, and that's why I love them so much. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. But that's you, my friend. You see, those who think in a certain frame of society, they are not brave enough to step outside of that frame. In other words, to step outside of the box. So they're constantly living in certain norms of what's been taught to them. Nothing wrong with that. Like, we all choose our paths, but if you haven't found a way to fit in to this kind of thinking, it means that you are the odd one. Most probably the chosen one that needs to say yes to the calling, right? Those who choose to follow their calling become the chosen ones that have decided to, say yes to that call that is kind of attracting them towards an adventure that is bigger than what they know. So eventually they step into the unknown path that must be supported by something bigger, because it was not them that really decided it. It was, we decide to do something new, something unfamiliar, but at the same time, it's like something greater calls us. Like, we experience a calling from God or from universe, and we need to follow it. Because the impulse becomes so strong that we just can't ignore it anymore. We can't neglect it anymore. At the same time, we feel if we would experience an intense sense of regret, and we don't want to experience that. It would not be good for us. Like, we don't want it. And therefore, I feel for you that your time has come to open up, to break the silence and start that conversation. Go and ask people something. Just break the silence. It may feel scary, but it will liberate you. One thing I've noticed in my life is I'm an artist most of the time, and also many other things. But I've noticed that if we spend too much time in our own thinking, we kind of disconnect from the world. But when we start talking about what we're thinking about, we reconnect with the world. It's a very interesting sensation. So you can, for those of you who may find yourself many times being isolated, you will notice that if you just start talking more frequently, even if just in front of the camera, you will recognize that it's quite therapeutic. That's something I've recognized in my life, because there was a phase in my life when I've started fully following this calling of mine, when I've started making art, and for quite some time it was all I've been doing. It was also a time when I had a lot of suppressed shame, and I was really scared to express myself. If you go and watch my oldest videos, you will see how shy I was. And back at that time, I've noticed that something very liberating is just to talk what inspires you, to talk what you're interested about. It's like you would be bridging the gap between your inner world and expression of how you really see it. And this expression of yours, the story of yours, becomes so sacred because you suddenly bring out a completely new image of something that exists only inside of you. You bring out a story, a poetry, a feeling, a view, a perception of something that's new, that's, unknown. And that's what makes beautiful art. That's what makes incredible storytelling. That's what makes healing poetry. That's what makes incredible, mind-blowing books. Many therapists, psychologists are like that because of that they can relate to their patients. and they can help them in profound ways because they know what they are going through. That's why you should break the silence and start talking more. Start expressing yourself more. Start bringing yourself out into the world because the world needs you. You would not be here otherwise. Otherwise, yes, I'm still learning. You see, English is, it's my second language, but I've chosen to bring the message out in English. Firstly, because it was a challenge. Secondly, because I want to reach the whole world. I'm coming from Slovenia. It's quite a small country. There's around 2 million people here. And I wanted to reach the whole world. And therefore I needed to learn to speak English. If you go and watch my first videos, you will see my English was so limited. It's still very limited, but it's quite more expensive or expanded than it was before. It's a sign of growth. And when you see your own growth, you recognize nothing is there to stop you. You see, in these days I've been wondering what else I could start doing, because I've noticed in my life that there are so many things I thought that are very, very hard, but eventually they became quite easy. So I recognized that maybe it's the same thing with everything. Like, it's firstly very hard and then it becomes easy because you become good at it. I'm not saying I'm very good at it, but I'm getting better, and that's a good start. So I'm saying to you, my friend, it's time to break the silence and put yourself out there into the world, because you're being guided and you will know what to do. It will be a scary move, but eventually, well, you will be very proud of yourself. But this sense of pride will be a different one. It will feel more like a divine feeling that turns into grace, and then it turns into a purpose of serving. Because what inspires me the most is someone's hero's journey. I'm the most inspired by that. Why? Because I needed that. I needed to see a hero who's been through hell but has found a way to rise from it, and then share a story of the phoenix. It's something that inspires me the most, and I said one day I want to be that phoenix as well, and I became one. I'm still one. I'm still becoming. But then once I've heard that God is not a state of being, it's not a perfect state of being, it's a state of constant becoming. And I've recognized, well, to be more God-like means that you are constantly becoming better at being human, at being soul human or divine human being, divine creature, or a child of God, where you're constantly learning to keep doing what can be the highest aim for you to become the best at what you love the most. And therefore you become the greatest expression of love through the work you're doing. And because your work will always be unique, as long as you will be following yourself, that expression of yours will always be unique. And that's what will make you stand out. And to me, that is a beautiful thing to see. So, my friend, never suppress yourself, only so you would be validated by others. When you learn to fully express yourself, you will eventually be validated for who you truly are. And this validation will feel different. It will feel different because you will not need it anymore, but it will be there. So therefore, you will appreciate it so much more, because it will humble you. You will notice that it's not really you what you're expressing. It's God. It's something that comes through you, and you're just being a vessel of it. And in that moment, you experience a very profound realization that answers the question, why at some point in your life you felt such a deep pull towards something so profound. And that is, I think, a very incredible moment in our lives, and it's worth it to go through all the pain and suffering to experience it. It's worth it. So don't stop, my friend. It's time for you to break the silence. Speak up. Talk about what lays in your heart. Tell that person what needs to be said. Tell your partner, your husband, your wife what lays there. Express what needs to be said, because it will resolve everything. Don't hold yourself back anymore. My friend, I will leave you here. I hope you found a great value in today's message. I'm sending you lots of love, blessings, and power. Thanks to everyone for choosing to support my art in our store, AttractPassion.com. You're all very appreciated. I'm an artist and I've created some of these beautiful creations. So thank you so much for your support. You can find all of my art on AttractPassion.com. And also thanks to everyone for choosing to connect on Patreon, AttractPassion, and follow me on Instagram, AttractPassion as well. Check it out, I'm posting daily inspiration there as well. Until next time, one love.